Travis, Paula, how you guys doing? Rita, hello. Leah, hello. 11-3. I didn't realize this, but that game in Seattle is at 5 o'clock, I think. So, Gary, why don't you? That game in Seattle is starting any minute, so we need to keep an eye on what's going on there. If somebody's got a TV going or in the background, that'd be awesome to keep track. James, how's it going? Cindy Lou. Elizabeth, hello. David. Kevin, what's up? Give it a few more seconds here. 11-3. We talked about it the last couple of days. There's been all sorts of rumors. It's kind of been like a 9/11 type deal. All these predictive programming where they show you over and over again the date 11-3, and there's all these theories. Nuclear attack, bridges blown out. There's actually been a couple of good videos out about what's going on and the possibilities. Oh, the game's not on in the East Coast. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, well, it'll come across the news if something happens for sure. Let's go ahead and get started. Swampwatch, 11-3-19. So, Travis was just asking. The lead up to this, like this has been on the cover of The Economist magazine. They had some arrows pointing. They had 11-3, 11-5. There's been all sorts of stuff, just like what came out before 9/11, that something was going to happen today. And remember, we've talked about the dates, the numerology is really important to Satanists. They love 9/11. They love 3/11, 11-3, going backwards and forwards, 11-9, 9/11. It doesn't make any difference. It's all the same to them. They're special dates, special numbers. So the question is, and there was also a rumor, hey, Danny, how's it going? Also a rumor that when they raided the Baghdadi compound, that they found information that allowed them to possibly thwart an attack. That's a rumor. It would make sense that it would be something going on this week, as this is the biggest thing as far as a date that I've heard about, since 9/11. Not that there haven't been other dates, but as far as the predictive programming and the pre-warning, it seems to be off the charts with today. So could be today, could be, Tuesday, the 5th. So for the next few days, we just want to be on our toes and also use this to motivate you to buy that extra little bit of food or water, medical supplies, ammo, Litecoin or silver. Don't forget your seeds, filtration devices. I mean, get your last minute stuff done now. Last minute planning done. Use this um, to get something else done, because there's all sorts of speculation. Um, the earthquake that's going to eventually come to the northwest, they're thinking could be like a 9, which can flatten buildings. And especially up there, um, they're not built like San Francisco is, because it's not what you think of as a really seismically active area. When they come there, they're bad. Um, they hit hard and usually cause pretty good tsunamis. Um, the good thing for um, for Portland and Seattle is that they're inland, you know, 30 miles, I think, at least for both of them. They're not actually on the ocean, which gives a big buffer, right, to those big population centers. But they're not, their elevation, they're pretty much at sea level. Um, so if you get a big tsunami, and they're saying, possibly 500-foot wave, that could run for a long time on a plane, right? If you're at sea level, there's nothing stopping that wave. It's going to run for a while. Um, so, and I think Seattle might be better off because they've got, I think the buffer of the bay would kind of deflect some of that. In other words, not as much water could get into the channel where but if it's a 500-foot wave though, they're probably in the same boat actually, and might even be a little bit worse off, because I think as far as to the coastline, I think Seattle's actually closer. Now it probably is going to hit harder further south, because I think that's uh, the main danger is like right at the northern end of California and the southern part of Oregon. So, and what they're saying, there's pretty good evidence to show that Fukushima, that earthquake, was not natural. The signature um, uh, from the seismographs, it there's a pretty good argument that it was an explosion, nuclear type explosion, that caused that earthquake and tsunami. And they're thinking that they might try something similar on the Juan de Fuca plate or fault line. It's a big subduction zone, and when those things break, when they kind of slip, it's not as big as you get these big jars with this zone in particular that just makes them really susceptible to the high numbers. And a 9 is, like I said, it can pancake a building. So we'll see what happens. I mean, we should know something in an hour if it's going to happen today. And fingers crossed, they did find something on that raid that helped them, if there was a plan that helped them prevent it. It's with these people, they're hard to figure sometimes. They play a lot of games, psychological games. So for us, we just prepare, right? We do the best we can to be ready for anything. And we all should be ready. Every part of the country has not just the issues of the financial collapse and the swamp draining, but there's all these natural disasters. And the world is getting pretty crazy right now with earthquakes, floods, volcanoes, hurricanes, almost every part of the country, you've got something that could cause. I mean, like we're doing right now in California with the fires. Good example. Stores are empty. There's gas stations are out of gas, or there's a line an hour long. And this is relatively minor when you think about the fires compared to a worldwide economic collapse that's not just a portion of California, but we're covering the whole world. Obviously, that's a huge impact. And when you see how ill prepared people were for this in a small area and what it did to the resources and how quickly they evaporated, it makes you understand that you can't wait till something goes down. You can't wait till there's an event, a trigger event, because then it's a rush. And the most likely outcome is that you're going to be late. So don't depend on that. Don't wait. I just wanted to mention, last night I talked a little bit. I said, I don't sell anything. I don't charge anything for the information or for what I do. I don't accept donations. But what I do ask you guys to do is that anything you make off of the information that you receive here, in cryptos or silver or whatever, that you pay it forward somewhere down the road. Whatever you would have donated to the Watchmen, donate it to somebody who needs it. And I think everybody should try and pick a number. Like most churches, it's 10% or 15% tithing, what you're supposed to donate to the church. Well, let's take that 10 or 15 or 20. I've already committed to 50%. And pay it forward. And do it yourself. The problem with most of these charities is, as we know with the Clinton Foundation, it's a joke. Lucky if 5% of your donation actually hits the streets. To me, I'm not doing it. I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to set up programs that I believe in: veteran homelessness, family homelessness. Those are my two first targets to try and impact. Everybody maybe doesn't have the time. I think that lives are going to be changed for people that hold 25, 30 Litecoin in 5 years. You're going to be able to do more than you can imagine. And I think 5 years is probably at the longest. There's more and more stuff coming out that makes me believe that when this goes, there's going to be like big moves up, and that for those big numbers, we may not have to wait as long as we thought. Because remember, and I've talked about this for 5 years, the longer this thing goes on, the bigger the bubble's going to be, and the more impactful it's going to be on the world. So I would expect the more dramatic this event is, the higher it's going to drive the prices, and the faster it's going to drive them. And we've never had anything like this in history. In 1929, they call the big one, the Great Depression, only impacted 30% of the people in the United States and hardly impacted the rest of the world. 5% maybe, if that. This is going to impact everybody in the world. It's going to affect, the people it's not going to affect financially is going to be us, the ones that are prepared. And that's going to be less than 10% that get through this unscathed. So 90% is going to be impacted, 95% of the population around the world. Uh, and when all these assets go to zero, you have all these guys um, like Buffett. He's got a world, a record cash pile sitting on the sidelines right now, waiting to see what happens. Guys like that, they are, trust me, as this thing's going and right before it goes, they will be loading up their crypto accounts with that cash that they have set aside. Now, if you're not Warren Buffett, there's a chance in that situation you might not be able to move your money. I mean, you might not be able to buy anything on Litecoin if the banks take a holiday. So that's why you can't. You don't want to. You don't want to take a chance here, because you may be faced, number one, for certain, higher prices. It might be ridiculously higher prices, 200, 300, 400%. And then, more likely you won't be able to get it, silver or Litecoin. So don't wait. Do what you can tonight. I think there was something else I wanted to. I know I don't know if it was last night or the night before, but there were some technical difficulties, I think, on your guys' end, because here it looked like the show went off without a hitch. I mean, there was no buffering or anything on my end. But it brought up a good point, because someone mentioned me repeating myself. And for the new people, I had a stroke March 12th. I'm not 100% yet. And in fact, I'm on permanent disability. I'm blind on my left side quite a bit, and some cognitive stuff. And so I will sometimes repeat myself. So if it happens, it's going to happen sometimes. It's no big deal. But and I do want to repeat a lot of these messages, because it's how I've basically just taken a playbook, a page from the playbook of the Black Hats, because they were very effective in getting our population herded in the right direction. And they did it by just saying the same things over and over and over and over again. Now, I'm not going to be that drastic, but I do want to repeat a lot of these messages, because we have people coming and going. Not everybody watches every night. I don't think there are very many people that have seen all of the live chats. So I've got to hit the important things, a couple of times a week at least. So don't get upset or frustrated by that. If you pay attention, you might learn something different. And if not, it's okay to go and research something else with that time. If it's something that I'm hitting that you already are pretty knowledgeable about. Spreading your wings is a good thing. You guys should be looking at other channels and getting other opinions on a lot of different issues. Base, so you can make better decisions with your knowledge. So don't be afraid to do that. And to start with, here's a good example. I was getting to the point before I had my stroke where I could actually do my talk And as I was doing it, I could pick up questions as I was going. I got to be pretty good at it. But since the stroke, I can't even hardly look at the questions till the end because I'll be in the middle of something and something will catch my eye and it throws me off because I have a real hard time multitasking and keeping two or three thoughts going in my head. So sometimes I'll get stuck like this. Um, anyway, it's no big deal. Again, just ignore it. Um, lot of stuff going, rumors flying about Sessions, black hat or white hat, and this kind of covers all of these fringe guys, Epstein, and really anybody who's kind of on the fringe. Doesn't make any difference. That's the bottom line right now, guys. People like that are a non-issue. Whether he's a white hat or a black hat, he's not going to impact anything that we need to worry about. So we'll find out down the road. I'm still on the fence. I mean, Q has actually said, I think, both ways. Trust him, don't trust him. We'll see. But it doesn't make any difference at this point. We're past him. Some rumors that he's going to be involved in the military tribunals. If he's a white hat, yeah, awesome. But for us, it's irrelevant. Same thing whether Epstein's alive or dead. It doesn't matter to us at all. The NSA doesn't need him. The DOJ doesn't need him. They're going to prosecute these people with or without him. They've got all the video. They've got all the evidence. Who cares? A lot of this stuff, the media and the trolls throw out there to take us off the scent, right? To get us off of the really important stuff. The things, the pedophilia, the economy and being prepared for it. Away from the FISA and now how they backed themselves in the corner with this impeachment. It's we almost can sit back and just let these guys destroy themselves because every day they do something else that drive more Democrats onto the Trump train. So no worries, guys. It's all good. I wanted to hit in some of the videos. I posted a lot of videos today. You guys should hit all of them that you can watching. At least there was 5 or 6 at least. In a couple of them, they talked about the reset and different opinions. I don't think there's any way that we get through this without a 100% reset, where they basically just wipe everything out. And some people, the people that don't think that's going to happen, I don't understand the executive order from 12/21/17. Remember, that executive order was put there for a reason. President Trump knows that all these big corporations, too big to fail banks, Amazon, Google, Facebook, Twitter, they've all been conspiring to take down our system, to destroy our country. With that executive order from 12/21/17, he can seize the assets, the government can seize the assets of all these banks, all these huge corporations. So the argument that, well, these banks are never going to agree with it, they're not going to have any choice. You guys are going to jail. You don't have any assets to have any say about. That's our money that they've been stealing. For years, for 100 years, they've been stealing us blind. So yes, they can wipe out the debt. It doesn't make any difference what the banks say or what Google says or what Amazon says, because they're not going to have any say. They're going to be busy, for a lot of them, staying alive, because a lot of them are guilty of treason. And I'm still saying, anybody they convict of treason will be executed, and they need to execute every single one that's guilty of treason. Every single person that's guilty of murdering children, murdering anybody, but especially children, executed. They can't walk the face of the earth. Those people need to be eradicated. I was just talking to a niece of mine today, and she's the whole crew. She's got everybody she works with. They're all watching. Picking it up really quickly, but she said today it's scary, and I can't stress enough two things. Number one is that's going to be the natural reaction, and number two, there is nothing to be afraid of. Everything that's going to happen has to happen for the world to change. The world has to change. We can't keep going down the road we were going, or we were going to be in Agenda 21. There was going to be 500 million left. They were going to murder 7 billion people in 80 years. So we are, through this process, the changes that are coming, all of the corruption, all of the manipulation, all of the abuses of our Constitution, and there are hundreds of them, are going to be removed. All of this evil in the world, these satanic pedophiles, the most powerful people in the world, are going down. That evil has to be destroyed. It has to be eradicated. Or we're going to find ourselves in the same boat in 25 years. President Trump understands this. The NSA understands this. The Department of Justice understands this. These people aren't going to be allowed to walk. They're going down. That's why they're fighting so hard, because they've already been told there's no deals. And now you're getting some of the underlings are, maybe the guys that wouldn't be executed but might spend the rest of their lives in jail. They're cutting deals right and left. And I think even some of the people that are going to be executed know there's no way out, and they might be cutting some deals just to get a little bit more time. Give me an extra month. I think those kind of things are happening, but they're not going to get off. None of them are going to get off. And that's why one of the reasons this thing's taken so long. And then I want to touch on, and I've kind of, again, it's a little bit repeating myself, but another thing that's really difficult to get across to people, you have to think about this in really kind of practical terms, although that sounds crazy with the things we're talking about, because there's nothing practical. If you'd asked me 20 years ago if we would ever be at a point like this, with this kind of change coming, not my lifetime. And it's happening right now, guys. We're in the middle of it. I can't tell you how huge in if you want to compare it to history and the things that have happened throughout history that have impacted mankind, there won't be an event. There hasn't been an event. There might be in the future, but there hasn't ever been an event of this magnitude in the history of mankind. A lot of it's the timing. We've got a huge population now with virtually instantaneous communication around the world. So when something happens, if something big happens, the whole world knows about it in really a matter of minutes. That is, you know, the first factor. And then when you throw in the kind of changes that are coming, of where our world was headed and who was driving the bus, which is basically the black hats and satanic pedophiles, and you wonder why, New York City and Chicago have the, shootings they do. It's all driven by drug epidemic. Is not an accident. The CIA got a double whammy with the drug business, because they got to sell it and make money for their black ops, and then it's destroying, especially our inner cities, but the country. And of course, the more pressure they put on, the more desperate people are, the more disillusioned they are, the less hopeful they are, and the more likely they are to fall into that lifestyle. And then it's just a continuing cycle downward. That's all changing. All of that influence is being eliminated. That negative manipulation. And then on top of that, you've got all of the technology that's been withheld, the medical advances that have been withheld, that are going to be released, that are going to change our lives again overnight. They supposedly cures for cancer, 0-point energy. Say within 5 years, you'll have something the size of a lunch pail that'll power your house for 25 or 30 years. It changes the world overnight. Virtually every problem that we face, water, clean water, enough food, those things are going to be gone, because with the things that are coming, we'll have desalination plants on every ocean, on every coast. Every continent could be a paradise, because it's going to be unlimited water. Again, greatest transfer of wealth in human history. We're going through man's greatest accomplishment, defeating this evil, and heading into, I believe, man's greatest age, 1,000 years of peace and prosperity. This change is difficult for people. The kind of things that are going to be revealed is difficult for people. But I can't stress enough, it's all going to be hugely overshadowed by the world that we end up with on the other side of this. Like fairy tale. Like nothing that the world has seen, I think, since Babylon. Because I think this influence has been going on for 5,000 years. And it's going to be the most amazing thing ever when we finally get through this. When we get this swamp drained and we get the economy fixed, what's on the other side? It's going to be awesome. So when you are talking to these people and because then their first reaction, and drag it out of them if you're not getting it, because a lot of people will just clam up. But talk about it, because it's going to be great. So there's no reason to be fearful or be hesitant about what's coming, because it's all good, guys. I mean, we're going to have some rough things to learn, and there might be some rough patches here and there. But for the most part, the people that are prepared, I think, are going to skate through this. The ones that aren't might struggle. But even if President Trump is on his game, even the people that aren't very well prepared could get through it. Now, they're not going to have the assets. They're not going to be able to get ahead through this. But we'll at least be in a better situation, where we'll go back to where Only the husband's going to have to work if that's what a family wants. The whole thing's going to change. You know, I think we're going to go back in time. I think there's going to be a big resurgence in people moving to the country. I think the cities are going to empty out because with the changes coming, you'll be able to work virtually from wherever you want. I think we're going to go back to our old school values. Um, you know, God and country. Uh, we could use some of that, and I think we're going to see a resurgence in that as we go through this process. So it's all good, guys. Okay, I just want to make sure. What do we got here? So it looks like, at least for right now, we got through the third. We'll wait until, I would say, if we get through this football game in Seattle, that we're probably pretty clear. But again, we still have the fifth that might be a possibility. Just be on your toes, guys. Yes, it's the end of the deep state. Carolyn, how you doing? The Packers? Yeah, all right. Yeah, it's so they really like the Satanics. They like 9/11. They like 3/11. They like 11/3. Backwards, forwards, gematria, guys. There's a lot of videos out on it. Check it out. Yeah, the football players have shot themselves in the foot. Look what's happened to the attendance. They took the hottest sport in the world and ran it into the ground with their antics, which just goes to show you, um, the point I was just making. People are getting beyond that. I was a huge sports fan. I watched pretty much everything. I haven't seen a football game this year. I didn't watch one baseball game. I didn't watch any of the World Series. I couldn't even tell you who was playing until I think I saw, like, when it was almost over, Washington and Houston, I think, uh, because I don't care. It's irrelevant to me. This is more important. I feel like watching a football game is, I could be, on here helping somebody get Litecoin or teaching somebody how to use it or why it's going to be important. It's changing somebody's life instead of screwing off for 3 hours. Uh, I hope eventually I can go back and enjoy some other things I used to enjoy. But when you get immersed in this and you really get how big this is, nothing else makes difference. I mean, you got your family and your job you got to take care of. And other than that, for me, any extra minute I have, this is what I do. Cousin Bill, how's it going? Yeah, well, the whole Elizabeth's talking about the aftershocks and how things are changing a little bit. And the earth has become, as a whole, look at the percentage. Like, say, go over the last 30 years and look at the increase in earthquakes and volcanoes. It's stunning. I mean, it's like 600% increase plus, I think. Something's going on. Omar, what's up? Yeah, the thing with Q being back, guys. So you got Q back. I'm thinking something big's going down. I think the other thing to be looking for, I think probably more likely than something happened in Seattle, is a swamp takedown. I think we're more likely. Look for Podesta. Look for John Podesta to be one of the first to go. Clapper, Brennan, Comey, Podesta. They maybe all go down this weekend. And that could be, we've talked about the trigger for the stock market. Either thing could be a trigger. I think the more likely thing is that they take down these guys, and then the deep state pulls the plug on the economy as a defense. Q's back, yes. Uh, he has post up. They're mostly testing, it looks like right now, but you can expect some big news tonight, tomorrow. I think there's going to be big things coming out. Okay, so Susan's saying it was technical yesterday as far as me repeating myself, so that's good news. Yeah, and don't get me wrong, guys. I appreciate all of you being here, and hopefully, you pick up stuff from my analysis, because here's the one thing in my journey through this process. There are very few people who are given analysis that are taking the most important things into account. If you're not taking into account the economy's collapsing, if you're not taking into account um, the swamp draining and the pedophilia being exposed, you don't have a clue how this is going to work out. You have to factor these things in, or your analysis is going to be crap, because they're the biggest events coming, the most impactful events in human history. I'm not even going to go there, Mike. Cousin Jackie, how you doing? Chad, what's going on, Chad? Yes, the Federal Reserve is bailing out the banks right now. That's what this whole repo program is. And I think this might be eventually what crashes the system, because they're basically bailing out the banks without congressional approval. They're at over, I think, 300 billion. Well, it was 700 billion. They had to get congressional. I mean, they're halfway there, and they've only been in it a month. Um, yeah, and the problem is it's the liquidity, guys. The banks have to have a certain amount of cash on hand, and so they have to lend to each other. And it's just like a 24-hour loan, so they can stay in business. They've got to have that cash in the system. Well, they normally get 2% to do those loans. Nobody was loaning because you have to, but the collateral they have is all crap. It's not worth the paper it's written on. They all know it. And the liquidity's so tight, nobody wants to be left holding the bag. So even though the rate went up to 10%, five times the going rate for a 24-hour loan, they still won't loan to each other. That's why they're having to dole this money out, because the system's about ready to implode. Once that credit freezes, it's over for the economy. And it could be any day. And when they go to Congress or when they go to President Trump, he's not bailing them out. You know, who was it? Just said something about the unknown. Susan. Um, you know, that's where we can help people because they don't have a clue. They don't have a clue what's happening right now, for sure. And if you don't have a clue what's happening, how do you predict what the future is going to bring? So we are miles ahead of everyone else, guys, because they don't even know anything about the economy. They think the economy's great. They don't know what's going to happen when the economy goes down. There's a lot of uncertainty there. And that's the thing that we can bring to these people is calm down. There's a way this should work out. At least it's a direction, right? Now, we might get blindsided by something totally out of the blue. An asteroid hits, for God's sakes. I mean, who knows? But if things keep going the way they're going, I think we've got a pretty good handle on this. Exactly how it's going to play out, exactly how President Trump's going to address this stuff, how prepared he is, how prepared he's got the military, all those things come into play. There could be a lot of little variables, but overall, we're headed in the right direction. Compared to 5 years ago when Obama was in office and it looked like Hillary was going to be next, millions were going to die in that scenario. And it looks like if we keep going down the road President Trump has us on, we might skate through this and lose very few. So it all depends on how he plays this out. So far, it's been brilliant. If you take the next 2 years based on the first 2.5, you have to think we're going to get through this thing pretty clean because he's done an amazing job. And when you really find out the scope of what he's had to fight, by far, he's going to go down as our greatest president. There's no question. Without doubt. Well, the people that have no idea are the ones that are going to be. So here's a nightmare scenario for your average person on the street. They both work 2 jobs, kids are in school, house is crazy. They're just plugging along trying to get the bills paid. They're on their way to work one Monday morning. They stop to get gas. The ATM card doesn't work. Their account's frozen. They got just enough food. Just the only food they have is what's in the house. The average house has 3 days. You got 4 kids. Things should get bad really quick. Because if you live in a city and you run out of food in 3 days and you got little assets, no means of protection, it could get ugly. When people run out of food is when it gets ugly. I don't think the stores are going to empty. I think if President Trump keeps the power on and keeps the grocery stores stocked, we'll get through this okay. Those are the 2 big danger points. If he can keep those things moving, we're going to get through this all right. But it's a big if. I think he will. I think he understands perfectly where this is headed. So far, he's been ahead of the game. I don't see that that's going to change. And here's the other thing, guys. Just I think pretty much everybody on the page is Christian. Anybody on the page that's doing this work is doing God's work. We're all going to die at some point. Um, what better way to go than in the service of others? I can guarantee you, any of us that don't make us through this thing, we all know where we're going. So, what else is there? You know, I don't want to die. I want to see this thing through the end. I'm excited about what's coming. And I'm excited to see exactly how it plays out. But if I go tomorrow, I got no regrets. Um, I've had a good life. I've done some things that I'm proud of. And I feel like I know where I'm going to end up. So, you know, it's in God's hands. And I'm good with that. And I think that's part of being spiritually prepared. That you understand that this is our bodies are a temporary thing. If you're a Christian, you understand we're all headed to a better place. So why would you fight to stay in the turmoil? You know, is one way to look at it. And that's the other thing. I'm glad I hit on that because it's going to be our responsibility to talk people off the ledge because there's going to be an epidemic of suicides, of people not understanding. They're going to be so frightful, not understanding where this is going. I think a lot of people will commit suicide. And my God, we're almost there. Don't do it. Our knowledge about where this is potentially headed, that upbeat message, that positive message will save lives. But we got to be ready for it, guys. And it's, you know, people not thinking rationally are going to be upset, scared. That's where our knowledge comes in to help these people through it. Podesta is a monster. And he's going to get justice. Yeah, they all are pretty much vampires. You're welcome, Kevin. Glad to do it. Yeah, praying medic is a good one, Kathleen. Yeah, I would think Susan's saying that she's getting the video skipping. Usually when that happens, it's the reception on your guys' end. So for whatever that works. For again tonight, it's been a perfect on my end. No buffering, no stoppage. Uh, Thanks, David. Well, here's the thing, guys. Kathleen's got a great question. So that's what the silver's all about. 1964 or older dimes. You want at least a couple $100 worth of 1964 or older dimes. That's what you're going to use to barter for food. Um, Everybody knows about Venezuela. Venezuela went through what we're going to be going through. Last year, I believe it was last year, in the middle of their financial crisis, when there's not a dog or a cat on the street because people are starving and they're eating their pets, an ounce of silver fed a family of four for 6 months. So you can't eat silver, but you can barter it for food. That's why the dimes are going to be so important, because everybody knows what they are. Everybody knows they're 90% silver, so they're going to be easily tradable for food if we get to that point. That's why you have to have both Litecoin and physical silver. Litecoin's probably going to be used for the recovery phase. Silver is going to be through the rough patch. Okay. Sandy, how you doing? Yeah, you should have at minimum. I think the last report I saw, FEMA said 6 weeks food and water for your family. I think if you've got 6 weeks, you're probably okay. I've got a lot more than that, but do what you can. Okay, guys, that's all the questions. Um, we always get stuck about it. 14 ounces or 14 dimes to an ounce, it should be. You have to remember it's only 90% silver. So to get an ounce, it takes 14 dimes, just so you know. Okay, guys, be on your toes. Be positive when you're talking to people. Really push the unity. That's what's going to get us through this thing. Remember, fear not. God and President Trump are still 1,000% in control. We'll see you tomorrow night at 5. God bless.